"Your husband deserves better," my best friend told me while we sat in my kitchen. I agreed completely. He deserved better than having a wife whose best friend was secretly trying to steal him. When I showed him the evidence, his face went white. 2 hours later, she was blocked from everything. I've always been the type of person who trusts too easily. Maybe that's why it took me so long to see what was happening right under my nose. My best friend Emma had been part of my life for 6 years. We met at a yoga class, bonded over terrible green smoothies, and somehow became inseparable. She was the kind of friend who remembered your birthday, brought you soup when you were sick, and always had time to listen when life got complicated. When I married Jake 3 years ago, Emma was my maid of honor. She helped me pick out my dress, organized my bachelorette party, and gave a speech at the reception that made everyone cry. She seemed genuinely happy for us, genuinely excited about our future together. But looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way she always asked detailed questions about Jake's work schedule. How she'd show up at our house when she knew I'd be running errands but Jake would be home. The way she'd laugh just a little too hard at his jokes, touch his arm just a little too often during conversations. I told myself it was nothing. Emma was naturally friendly, naturally touchy. Some people are just like that, right? The first real warning sign came about 6 months ago. Jake and I had been going through a rough patch, nothing dramatic or relationship ending, just the usual stress that comes with building a life together. Work pressure, money concerns, different opinions about when to start trying for kids. Normal married couple stuff. I confided in Emma about all of it because that's what best friends do. You share the difficult parts of your life with people you trust to support you, not judge you. Except, Emma had been judging. Quietly, carefully, systematically. It started with small comments during our coffee dates. Little observations about how Jake seemed tired when she saw him. How maybe he needed more support at home. How important it was for couples to really appreciate each other. At first, I thought she was being helpful, offering perspective from the outside. Then the comments got more pointed. She'd mention how handsome Jake looked when he smiled. How lucky I was to have someone so patient and understanding. How some women don't realize what they have until it's gone. I should have paid attention to that last part. 3 weeks ago, Jake started acting strange. Not in an obvious way, just small changes that I might not have noticed if I hadn't been married to him for 3 years. He was more careful with his phone, keeping it face down during dinner, taking it with him when he went to shower. He seemed distracted during conversations, like part of his mind was somewhere else. When I asked him about it, he said work had been stressful. New project, demanding client, long hours. It made sense. I dropped it. But then Emma started acting strange too. She was less available for our usual coffee dates, claiming she was busy with work projects I'd never heard her mention before. When we did hang out, she seemed nervous, fidgety, like she was keeping track of time. She kept checking her phone and giving vague answers when I asked about her weekend plans. The final piece clicked into place last Tuesday morning. I was getting dressed for work when Jake's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He was in the shower, and the notification was visible on the lock screen. It was from Emma. The preview text said, "I can't stop thinking about what you said yesterday. When can we..." The message cut off there, but I could see enough. My stomach dropped so fast I had to sit down on the edge of the bed. I didn't unlock his phone. I didn't need to see the rest of the conversation to understand what was happening. Instead, I waited. I went to work, came home, made dinner, and acted completely normal while my world quietly collapsed around me. That evening, when Jake said he needed to run to the store for milk, I offered to come with him. He said no, he'd be quick, just a 5-minute trip. He was gone for 1 hour and 12 minutes. When he came back, he didn't have any milk. I knew then, with absolute certainty, that my best friend was trying to steal my husband. The question was, What was I going to do about it? I could have confronted them immediately, screamed, cried, demanded explanations, thrown things. But I've never been that kind of person. When I get angry, I get quiet. I get careful. I get strategic. So I started watching, really watching. Over the next week, I paid attention to everything. Jake's schedule, his mood, his phone habits, Emma's excuses for why she couldn't hang out, her sudden interest in Jake's favorite restaurant downtown, the way she'd casually mention running into him at the coffee shop near his office. I also started setting little traps. Nothing dramatic, just small tests to see how they'd react. I told Emma that Jake and I were thinking about taking a weekend trip to Portland. She immediately suggested we wait, claiming the weather would be better in a few weeks. Later, I told Jake the same thing, and he agreed we should postpone. When I asked why, he said Emma had mentioned that Portland was having unusually bad weather. I told Emma that Jake had been working late every night. She nodded sympathetically and said she'd noticed he seemed tired when she'd seen him around town. I never told her I'd seen him around town, and Jake's office is nowhere near any of the places Emma usually goes. Small things, but they added up to a clear picture. By Friday, I had enough circumstantial evidence to confront them, but I wanted something concrete, something undeniable. That's when I remembered that Jake and I share a cell phone plan. We'd set it up that way when we got married to save money, and we both have access to the account online. I'd never used it to check his phone records before. I'd never had a reason to. But desperate times call for desperate measures. I logged into the account that night while Jake was watching TV in the living room. Our bill showed every call and text, including timestamps and phone numbers. What I found made me physically sick. Text messages to Emma's number, dozens of them, at all hours of the day and night. Long phone calls during his lunch breaks, during his commute, during the hour he claimed to be buying milk. The most recent call had lasted 43 minutes and ended just 20 minutes before he came home last night. I screenshotted everything. Call logs, text records, timestamps. I didn't read the actual messages. I couldn't access the content, just the frequency and timing. But I didn't need to read them to understand what was happening. My husband and my best friend had been having an emotional affair, possibly more, for weeks. I saved all the evidence to a folder on my laptop, then closed the browser and went to bed. Jake was already asleep, or pretending to be. I lay there staring at the ceiling until my alarm went off, planning my next move. Saturday morning, I texted Emma and asked if she wanted to meet for coffee. Our usual place, our usual time. She said yes, probably thinking this was just another normal weekend catch-up. I got there early and ordered my usual latte. When Emma arrived, she looked nervous, but I pretended not to notice. We made small talk for about 10 minutes. Work, weather, weekend plans. Normal best friend conversation. Then I decided to cut to the point. I need to ask you something, I said, keeping my voice calm and level. And I need you to be honest with me. She straightened up slightly. Of course. What's going on? Are you having an affair with my husband? The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. Emma, I said gently, I know, I have phone records. Dozens of calls and texts over the past month. I know you've been meeting him. I know you've been talking about me, about our marriage, about whatever this is between you two. She finally found her voice. It's not what you think. What is it then? We're just friends. He's been struggling with some things, and I've been listening. That's all. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd saved. These calls. Some of them are over an hour long. You talked to my husband for an hour and 16 minutes on Thursday night while I was at my book club. What exactly were you talking about? She stared at the screen, then at me. I can explain. Please do. He's not happy, Sarah, in your marriage. He's been feeling disconnected, unappreciated. He needed someone to talk to. I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. And you decided to be that someone. I was trying to help both of you. I thought if I could help him work through his feelings, maybe you two could fix things. By having secret conversations behind my back. It wasn't supposed to be secret, it just happened. I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. She looked guilty, defensive, but not ashamed. Not sorry. Emma, I said slowly, do you have feelings for my husband? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. She didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. I think, she said finally, that Jake deserves better than what he's getting. There it was, the truth I'd been dreading and expecting in equal measure. Better than me, you mean? She didn't deny it. I stood up, left money on the table for both our drinks, and walked out. She didn't follow me. That afternoon, I showed Jake everything. The phone records, the screenshots, the timeline of calls and messages. I didn't yell or cry or make accusations. I just laid it all out on our kitchen table and asked him to explain. He tried the same line Emma had used. They were just friends. He'd been going through a tough time. She was someone to talk to. About what? I asked. About us, our marriage, the problems we've been having. What problems? He looked confused. You know, the stress, the arguments about money, the fact that we never seem to connect anymore. And Emma was helping you work through these problems? She was listening, offering perspective. What kind of perspective? He hesitated. She thought maybe we'd grown apart, that maybe we wanted different things. And what did you think? Another hesitation. I don't know. Maybe she was right. I nodded slowly. Jake, are you in love with Emma? No, he said quickly, too quickly. Are you attracted to her? He stopped, looked down at his hands. I don't know. Maybe. But I never acted on it. Emotional affairs are still affairs. Nothing physical happened. But something emotional did. He didn't deny it. I told him I needed time to think. He said he understood. He offered to sleep on the couch, but I told him not to bother. I was going to stay at my sister's house for a few days. Before I left, I blocked Emma's number on both my phone and Jake's. I also blocked her on all social media platforms and deleted her contact information from everywhere I could think of. I wasn't ready to decide what to do about my marriage, but I was absolutely certain that Emma would never be a part of my life again. At my sister's house, I told her everything. She was furious on my behalf, ready to drive over to Emma's apartment and have words. I talked her out of it, but her anger was validating. It confirmed that what had happened wasn't normal, wasn't acceptable, and wasn't my fault. Over the next 3 days, both Jake and Emma tried to reach me. Jake called and texted constantly, apologizing, asking to talk, promising he'd cut off contact with Emma. Emma found ways around the blocks I'd put in place, creating new social media accounts to message me, even showing up at my office. I ignored them both. On Wednesday, I went home. Jake was waiting for me, looking like he hadn't slept in days. We sat down and had the conversation I'd been dreading. He swore nothing physical had happened with Emma. He admitted to having feelings for her, to confiding in her about our marriage, to seeking emotional support from her instead of talking to me directly. He said he was sorry, that he knew he'd made a mistake, that he wanted to work on our marriage. I listened to everything he had to say. Then I told him I needed him to move out while I decided what I wanted to do. He argued at first, said we should try counseling, that we could work through this together. But I held firm. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal overnight. And I needed space to figure out if it could heal at all. He moved in with his brother that weekend. As for Emma, I never spoke to her again. She tried for weeks to reach me, sending long apologetic messages through mutual friends, even mailing a handwritten letter to my house. In every communication, she insisted that nothing physical had happened, that she'd been trying to help our marriage, that she never meant for things to go as far as they did. But she never denied having feelings for Jake. She never denied trying to position herself as his emotional support system. She never denied telling him he deserved better than me. And that told me everything I needed to know about who she really was, underneath all that friendship and loyalty. 3 months later, Emma moved to Seattle. New job, new city, fresh start. I heard about it through mutual friends who seemed to think I should know, though I never asked. Jake and I went to counseling for 2 months before I decided I couldn't get past what had happened. Not because he'd been unfaithful exactly, but because he'd allowed someone else to become intimate with our marriage in a way that excluded me entirely. We divorced amicably 6 months later. No drama, no fighting over assets, just a quiet acknowledgement that some betrayals cut too deep to fully heal. I'm not bitter about it anymore. Jake wasn't a bad person, just a weak one. He took the easy path when our marriage got difficult instead of doing the hard work of talking to me directly. Emma wasn't evil, just selfish. She saw something she wanted and convinced herself she was entitled to pursue it. But I learned something important from the whole experience. Trust isn't just about fidelity. It's about loyalty, transparency, and choosing your partner even when things get complicated. The people who deserve to be in your life are the ones who support your relationships, not the ones who quietly work to undermine them. I have better friends now. Friends who celebrate my successes instead of envying them. Friends who offer perspective without hidden agendas. Friends who understand that boundaries exist for a reason. And when I meet someone new, someone worth building a life with, I'll know what red flags to watch for. I'll know the difference between support and manipulation, between helpful advice and calculated interference. Emma was right about one thing. I did deserve better. I deserved better than a friend who would betray me and a husband who would let her. So tell me, did I handle this the right way? Or should I have fought harder to save relationships that were already broken? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe and tap the bell.